Hi everyone, it's Melissa, and welcome back to another installment of Pop Culture Osmosis. This is a series in which I read a very famous book and try to predict what will happen in the book based on pop culture references. This has been a really fun series to do, but the last book I read was a big old flop, and you'd think I would play it safe with my next choice, but I'm really being risky here because I am reading Dracula by Bram Stoker, and this has very mixed reviews from people whose book opinions I value. I have 4 predictions for this book, and we're like setting aside things like it takes place in Transylvania and Count Dracula turns out to be a vampire because we know this. These are things that I am not super 100% confident happen, but I think happen. Number 1 is that the protagonist wants some real estate. This is why he meets with Count Dracula. I'm pretty sure he's trying to get Count Dracula to sell some property. I feel like I've seen that referenced him buying up property or something. Prediction number 2 is that Dracula seduces the protagonist's love interest, and I think turns her into a vampire. I hope that happens. That would be great. Prediction number 3 is that Dracula turns into a bat at some point during this novel. And prediction number 4 is that the protagonist drives a stake through Dracula's heart, killing him. So basically this is just an exercise in how many vampire tropes started with this book. Something that happened in the first chapter that I highly enjoyed was this foreshadowing that the protagonist was just not getting. So he's on his way to meet Count Dracula, and he's leaving this inn or wherever it is he's staying, and the landlady or keeper, she's begging him oh, do you have to go? Don't go. And he's what's your problem, lady? And she puts a crucifix over him, and that's just the start of the locals acting weird and making signs to ward off the evil eye and all these things. As he's waiting for the coach to arrive, he is hearing all these hushed discussions around him in various languages. And so he's looking through these dictionaries that he has. So he's looking up the words, and they are things like Satan and evil and all of these things. And he even says something along the lines of, one of the words translated as either werewolf or vampire. I will have to ask the Count about this when I get there. He doesn't seem to get that the locals are worried about where he's going. The other thing that's happened is the whole setup of why he's there, which I don't know if I'm going to count this as the prediction being true or being false. I knew it has something to do with real estate, but I had said that he was there, the protagonist, whose name is Jonathan Harker, I think. I said that he was there to talk to the Count about buying up the Count's property or whatever, something along those lines. But he's not. He's a lawyer that has been sent to the Count because the Count is buying property in London. So this British lawyer has come to talk to him about the purchase and all of the legal stuff that he has to do. So I didn't realize that Dracula was trying to get to London. So he's at the Count's. Things are weird already. I thought it would take a while of little hints here and there, and that maybe we would get I don't know, a decent chunk into the book before he realizes oh, something's wrong with the Count. But literally I'm on chapter 2, and already he was like shaving, and then the Count comes up behind him and he has no reflection. The weirdest thing is that Harker seems kind of nonplussed about this like lack of reflection, which wouldn't that just scare the bejesus out of any normal person? The only thing that worries him is that he's realized that most of the doors of the castle are locked and he feels like a prisoner there. That's when he gets worried. The fact that the man he's staying with has no reflection, that didn't do it. But locked doors, who, like, big red flag. I have been surprised by some of this book. One section in particular, I am sure people were scandalized at the time. There's one scene where Jonathan Harker is in a room and there's these three ladies, they're like three vampire ladies, and they're coming to try to suck his blood, but then Dracula stops them and says like he's off limits, essentially. But the scene where one of them is trying to suck his blood is very sexual. And I was like, damn, I didn't realize how, like, it wasn't quite overt, but it was definitely more than innuendo. And then also some of the, like, horror scenes, they're not as graphically gruesome as, like, a horror novel today, of course, but, like, they killed a baby, like, or a toddler or something. He couldn't quite see the child, but he could hear it, and, like, the vampire ladies literally killed a baby. And then the baby's mother came to the castle yelling to have her child returned to her, and then wolves ate her. So, yeah. We've shifted perspective now, and also, it's not, like, 100% clear, but Jonathan Harker may be dead. His diary left off that he was pretty sure, like, this was his last day. Count Dracula had him, like, date all of these letters, and, like, the last one, like, predate them, and the last one got sent by post, and so he thinks Dracula is finally going to let the lady vampires that are there kill him. But of course, because it's written in diaries, like, you don't get any, like, real-time action. And now it shifted perspectives to letters between Mina, who is Jonathan's fiance, and her friend Lucy, and it's actually all very boring. Like, they're just talking about men, and Lucy had 3 proposals in one day, and, I'm bored. Like, we literally were with Harker in Transylvania, imprisoned in a castle with a vampire. And now you're going to shift to this? Like, I don't care. Okay, I'm just about to go into work, but I feel like I have to catch you up a little bit because this book there's a lot going on. I thought it was going to be pretty straightforward. Main character goes to Transylvania, goes to Count Dracula's castle, gets trapped there, figures out a way to kill him, the end. No. So we follow Jonathan Harker for like a couple chapters, and he gets trapped at the castle, and we're kind of left not knowing if he's alive or dead. But then we switched to a bunch of different perspectives. So there was Mina and Lucy. Mina is Jonathan Harker's fiance. Lucy is her friend. Lucy's the one who had 3 proposals in one day. And like the first person that proposed to her is a doctor whose perspective we also see in the book, Dr. Seward, and he's the doctor at the local asylum. Has a special interest in this one patient who has been raising flies to feed to spiders, and then raising spiders to feed to sparrows, and then it looks like he may have eaten the sparrows alive. Anyway, that happened. This is going to be connected to the story in some way, shape, or form, I guess. And then Lucy is like a sleepwalker. Oh, I forgot a whole thing. Also, a ship has come into harbor. All the crew are dead or like missing, and the captain is dead, tied to the helm. And it's obvious that there was a vampire on board. Like, it's obvious to the reader, not to like any of the people in the book. So now Count Dracula, or some random vampire of his, is loose in England. Lucy is a sleepwalker. And Mina goes out and finds her one night because she's been sleepwalking. And Mina thinks she sees something. It's obviously a vampire, but then she's like, oh, it must have just been my eyes playing tricks on me. And then later Mina notices a couple of like little tiny little pinpricks in Lucy's neck. So this vampire has been feeding on Lucy. I feel like you're going to get a lot of updates in my car because I'm listening to this on audiobook, mostly while I drive like to and from work. Anyway, so update. First of all, Jonathan Harker lives. He's in a hospital in like, I forget, somewhere in Eastern Europe. And Mina gets a letter, and so she goes to him, and like they get married there. More importantly, there has been a new character introduced that I'm kind of kicking myself that I didn't realize would be in this book. But Dr. Seward is trying to help Lucy. She's very pale. She's obviously lost a lot of blood. And he writes to a colleague of his, a very knowledgeable man by the name of Dr. Van Helsing, who has now come to help him take care of Lucy. They've done a bunch of like blood transfusions, and like at first it seemed like Dr. Van Helsing was just going to be like a normal doctor and also not realize what's going on, but he clearly does, but he's not telling anybody. But there's just this scene that happened where he's like, I have some like medicinal flowers for you that I'm going to put around your room. He's telling this to Lucy. And so Van Helsing literally puts garlic all over her room. He hangs garlic around her neck. He has like it in a vase. He has garlic all over the room, and he like shuts all her windows because obviously he knows what the hell's going on. But then we go to Dr. Seward's diary, journal, whatever. And he's like, oh, I went in to check on Lucy, and it was so awfully stuffy in there. The odor of these like flowers, that couldn't have done her well. So I wanted to make sure her room wasn't stuffy and that she got some fresh air. So I opened all the windows and I threw out all the flowers. And now Van Helsing's found out, and he's like freaking out. But I literally just like burst out laughing because like she has 2 pinpricks in her neck. She's constantly pale. She always is worse after nighttime. But only Van Helsing knows what the hell's going on. But he isn't telling anybody. Lucy's a vampire. She's officially a vampire. I feel like this entire reading experience is going to be me getting so close to my predictions, but getting them completely wrong. I thought the protagonist, which in my eyes was the person who goes to Count Dracula's castle, so Jonathan Harker, I thought his girlfriend slash fiance slash wife was going to get turned into a vampire. I mean, that may well still happen, but I don't think so. Lucy is a vampire. Hallelujah, I finally got a prediction right. Dracula does in fact turn into a bat. He does so like, it's implied. He's like, there's a bat that was rapping at the window, at Lucy's window, which I forgot to mention. And now Van Helsing's talking about like all the superstitions surrounding like vampires, and kind of like they're going through what they know about vampire legend and trying to figure out like how to get rid of Dracula. And he mentions like turning into a bat and also like turning into a wolf, like any creature of the night. So I guess he was a wolf at some point. Anyway, so he does turn into a bat. I was kind of hoping that that would happen like on page, that he would like transform in front of them and it would be like this big like scary thing. But there's actually not a whole lot of Dracula in this book called Dracula. In the first couple chapters there were when Harker was at his castle, and that stuff I enjoyed quite a lot. But now he's just kind of like on the periphery, like it's implied that he's in London. The story has focused more on like Lucy like sleepwalking and getting ill and then turning into a vampire, and them now having killed vampire Lucy. So huzzah. Mina Harker is driving me nuts She thinks maybe she's seeing like red eyes glowing in this mist. And she's like shaking her head and just saying like, oh, like I just need some rest. I need to get to sleep. I'm seeing things. Mind you, this is a woman who now knows that vampires exist. What do you think you're seeing, Mina? In her journal, she's saying things like, oh, I just can't seem to stop crying. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. I don't know why I can't stop myself from crying. I don't know, Mina. Maybe it's the fact that your best friend Lucy died, but really she turned into a vampire and started feeding off of children in the city. And then her fiance had to stab her through the heart with a stake. I don't know, just a thought. So it looks like Mina might be turning into a vampire. I think Dracula's been feeding off of her. She's getting pale, like she's acting weird. Her teeth are starting to protrude. And it's like, maybe if she had taken those like red eyes glowing in the mist seriously, she wouldn't be in this predicament. I am completely victim blaming Mina here. I can't stand her. I can't stand her at all. I think she's so dumb. She's done nothing to protect herself from this, even though she knew there was a vampire around. And I feel like you're just putting Jonathan, your husband, in the position to have to stake you through the heart. Come on, Mina, get it together. Excuse me if I look disheveled. We just got back from a little trip. Finished Dracula. The last bit was promising because they're like trying to beat Dracula back to Transylvania. He's basically shipped himself in a coffin. Well, just like in a box, I guess. But they are trying to head off the box before it gets delivered to his castle so that they can kill him and so that hopefully Mina will stop turning into a vampire or like will save her before she gets turned completely. And it was kind of fast-paced and suspenseful for a little bit as they are traveling to try to find the box, but then they find it and kill him. And the end, Mina's saved. It was so anticlimactic. Also, Jonathan Harker does not stake Dracula. It's some other dude. It doesn't matter. It's not Van Helsing. It's not anyone important, in my opinion. So my overall thoughts are, meh, it was fine. Nothing to write home about. Anyone who was keeping track, I got exactly one prediction correct, that Dracula turns into a bat. That's all. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Please comment below if you read Dracula. What were your thoughts on it? And we'll chat soon. Take care. Bye.